Good evening and welcome back to NoQuipFootball on NoQuip Sports, your postseason edition of No Funny Business football news. You get in, you get out 5 to 7 minutes, and hopefully you get some pick'ems along the way. So just so you all know, in Week 17, NoQuipFootball picked 12 out of 16 games correctly, and on the season, since NoQuipFootball started in Week 10, the pick'ems are 97 out of 123, which is 78.8%, which I think is fairly impressive. So I hope you all have been enjoying the advice that we give out week in and week out. So anyways, also additionally, this week we'll be calling all the games, all the wildcard games will be called on Friday in the Friday video. We're not calling them during the week videos this time around, just as we're still figuring out exactly what we want to do with these games. So the second Saturday wildcard game is the Detroit Lions visiting the Seattle Seahawks at 8:15 p.m. at CenturyLink Field in Seattle, Washington on NBC, for those of you who will be watching it. By the way, that time is in Eastern, just so you all know. Now, let's review the Detroit Lions this season. 9-7 record. They're the 6th seed in the playoffs because Washington did not win to then knock them out. They actually lost. Megatron's departure has given the team fuel to win. A lot of what these reporters have been talking about lately is how other big players who have left before have led to postseason runs the year after. So maybe Detroit focuses a little too much on their superstars rather than spreading the ball around. Also, not sure how good Zenner is this year. Obviously, he bloomed late with some injuries, but also there's no way to know if he's legit until we actually see a full season of him. So maybe, just maybe, if they skate by this first round, we'll get to see enough of him where we'll get to find out truly what he's made of. This year, in my opinion, their best game was on the road, actually, against the Saints, not Seattle. And the score was 28-13 in, I believe, Week 11. Now, the reason I think that this is the best game is because it was in New Orleans, where Drew Brees is deadly. They managed to hold them to 13 points, and not only that, but they were actually up by 2 touchdowns against a team that is as deadly as them. So it's very interesting that they put together as good of a game as they did that week. Now, the other thing is Stafford has been fire flames this season. 6, maybe 8 of his wins, definitely 6, came in the last 2 minutes, so you know the guy is good under pressure. But the problem that I have is that you can't win every single game that way. I mean, obviously it's fun and it makes it more interesting to win it that way, but I would rather see a lot more 28-13 type wins out of this team than bring it back in the last second, quite literally. So also, in addition to that, Ebron and Marvin Jones have really been helping him with making that argument for being a pretty good quarterback this year. And in addition, I personally think the defense is going to have to step up, because from the scores that I was reading throughout this season, they're very, very back and forth on how they do against good teams and bad teams. Sometimes they let more points to bad teams, sometimes they let up less points to good teams, or they let other teams explode, stuff like that. But anyways, moving on to Seattle this year, a 10-5-1 record as the 3rd seed. A good record for sure, but for some reason I always have like a fairly weird feeling about this team. It's always said that their first 4 games are kind of blah. But and that kind of was. I mean, they did win 3 out of 4 of them, but they weren't very convincing. They weren't the Seahawks way that you suspect. There was also a lot of contract problems in the beginning of the year. Now you have injuries on their defense in the end of the year. So there's a lot of little business going on here and there. Their offensive line always seems to be an issue, but I also wonder too, is it the offensive line or is it the style of play that Russell Wilson is? So obviously early or probably about midway through the season, Wilson was very back and forth as well with his injury that he had and trying to come back from it. Then you had the Tom Rawls injury. You had Christian Michael, who came out of nowhere, but then they released him, which was probably a bad idea because now they're short on running backs, stuff like that. So all kinds of craziness going on in the backfield. But then when you talk about that wide receiving core, I mean, obviously you lost Tyler Lockett recently, which is a huge thing for special teams and for having a nice youthful wide receiver. But Doug Baldwin and Jimmy Graham have been fantastic ever since Jimmy Graham got back from the Saints from his 1, maybe 2-year departure. And then also, it appears that the defense has always risen to the occasion. Now, the thing I don't like about the defense is they're very back and forth. If it's a bad team, they'll play down to them. If it's a good team, they'll play up to them. So I don't know what's going to happen in this game, folks. I mean, like I said, we're going to make all the calls on Friday, but we'll see what happens. But anyways, as always, while you're here, don't forget to like NoQuip Sports on Facebook. You can subscribe to NoQuip Sports here on YouTube by clicking this red subscription down below or the annotation I'm about to put up. Also, in addition, we're on Twitter now, at NoQuip Sports on Twitter, where we're going to live tweet games that we don't do live broadcasts for on Facebook, so I hope you all enjoy that. Anyways, as always, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Go football.